Hello, everyone. Welcome to another very special Craft Beer Wednesday. That one didn't fizz up, Kenny.
I mean, you didn't get the click on the end of it, but it was the best one we've had so far. So there we go. Congrats.
I didn't risk pouring beer all over Lindsay's keyboard, so that's a good start.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think before we kind of get into the thick of it, I believe some congratulations are in order to yourself and your team.
Yeah, I since I've started supporting LA teams, I'm not going to change in ice hockey. I'll be a Buffalo Sabres fan, but yeah, they've both won world championships. I use that in inverted commas, obviously, because
let's not go down that road. We're trying to keep on a positive here.
Yeah, but the Dodgers won, and it's now the Rams have won, so it's pretty cool. Unfortunately for me, I couldn't watch it live in the end. That trip to Cambridge beat the crap out of me, and I ended up in a situation where I was just not going to be able to stay awake or function as a human on the Monday for work. So I watched it later on, which was quite cool in a way because I got to skip all the sort of rubbishy Sky ads and then just listen to a little bit of analysis that I wanted to. When around the NFL guys were on, I listened to it. And then just watch the game, see what happened. But what do you make of the game? I think you were hinting to me when you were messaging me when you weren't very well that you probably wanted the Bengals to win as opposed to the Rams.
Yeah, I was kind of a heart and head situation. I kind of in my heart I wanted the Bengals to win. Obviously, we've already mentioned them. We have a bit of an affiliation, or a soft spot. Affiliation is the wrong word, but a soft spot for the guys on the ATN podcast. And obviously with the passing of Wes at this point last year, he was a lifelong Bengals hater, I suppose. Not hater, he just disowned them.
He divorced them.
Yeah, he did, yes. So yeah, it would have been quite fitting for obviously the first full season without Wes around. Would have been nice for them to do that for him and his family, and his brothers and Lakeisha and Link as well. So there was a bit of a heart there, but my head said that the Rams were just going to be too much. And I think that kind of came to fruition. There was that heart of the Bengals at the kind of midpoint, or quarter 2, quarter 3. And then the Rams just showed their class towards the end. Obviously, we can get into the analysis in a wee bit, but yeah, it was definitely a head and heart to say, well, I wanted, I suppose, and throughout the game, I was the past couple of years being a Broncos fan. Like a lot of the games have been, like a lot of the Super Bowls have been me watching as a neutral fan just for the love of the game. But I find it very difficult not to root for our team in the moment.
Yeah.
And it was a strange one, I think, for me, because I didn't actually care. I felt at points that I was like, I was rooting for the Bengals, but then with the small kind of other storylines, obviously you got your Von Miller side of things. It was been, I wanted Aaron Donald to get his ring. I wanted Andrew Whitworth to get a ring. I can't stand Jalen Ramsey, so a little bit of the analysis. We'll get to that in a bit, but there was little storylines of people that I wanted to see do well on both sides and people that I didn't really care about on the other. So yeah, it turned out to be 3:05. I got to my bed, which I was very, very happy with. I appreciate you kind of alluded to it earlier on that I haven't really been well over the past week, so. Sleep has been my friend. I had a little nap on the couch before we started filming this tonight, which was good. And it was just an all-round good game.
Yeah, I thought it was a good game. I had a bit of everything. I thought the game started a bit when unfortunately I found out the Rams had won before I got to watch it, so I didn't get the excitement of that last drive quite the same, because I knew the Rams were gonna stop them. But it started off and I thought the Rams were going to be in trouble And then equally, then the Rams went and done to the Bengals what they had done to the Rams in terms of defense. And I thought, this is not going to be a 13-3, is it? And then the Rams had a pretty nice drive and went 7-0 up. Then the Bengals had a drive that was stalled, but they got, obviously, Evan McPherson they can rely on every game, it would seem. And then things sort of tightened up. That trick play that they called, it was gutsy on Mixon for the touchdown. I really liked that from the Bengals. I think there was an argument that when you talk about the Westland Bowl and stuff, there was an argument that West would have still wanted the Rams to win because Lakeisha would have wanted the Rams to win, and he would have wanted Lakeisha to be happy. But
I think there was also a bit of he wanted. Obviously linked to grow up to make his own choices, but I think with the Lakeisha side of things as well, he would have wanted Link to grow up an LA fan as well. So,
yeah. But hey, no one expected the Bengals to get there this season. The Rams were built for it, which we'll get to. The Rams came out the winner in the end, and they sneaked by, so it could have been either way. And I think either team could have been justifiably the winner in this game. So I don't think the Rams destroyed them or can hold their heads in the way that says that they should be cocky about winning. They should be happy about winning. They should be delighted. But I think they've still got work to do for next season if they're going to compete again. But anyway,
I couldn't agree more with that. With looking at next season, obviously that's out with this game.
Yeah. Now, you sent me a wee list of topics, and the first one is plays of the game. I think the play of the game for me was obviously the Donald sack. It was not sack, but when the pressure on on Burrow at the end, and Burrow threw the ball away, and if he'd had an extra second. The camera showed that I think it was Chase Young or T. Higgins was open and would have scored probably the game-winning touchdown because you would back Burrow to hit him. But Donald, I think, as people say, the cream rises to the top, and Donald certainly showed in the game that's the case. But a lot of nice plays in the game. There was some dross as well because of the defense, but. The defenses were so good, but there was a lot of nice plays in the game. What was your sort of favourite play?
Like you say, there was a lot of very nice plays. I watched the game back again today and took a few notes. I thought that OBJ only actually made 2 catches. He was only targeted 3 times. Now, obviously, the injury needs to be taken into factor with that because he left just before half time. But there was 2 plays. One, so it was on a short field because obviously the Bengals went for it on 4th down, went for it on 4th and 1. No, they didn't go for it on a radio program. Thank you. So Burrow throwing it into double coverage, trying to get Jamar. Did you say Chase Young earlier on?
I might have done.
Yeah, okay. I'm just calling you out on that one. So that kind of led to a turnover on downs and giving LA decent field position. So there was the OBJ touchdown, which was a beautiful 17-yard pass to the back, kind of front corner of the end zone on Stafford's right. I thought that was a cracking pass. It was the pass that needed to be put in the right place. Defender, I haven't got his name written down. It wasn't a blown coverage. It was just Beckham being Beckham. Mm-hmm. He just kind of got him, not even cross-footed, just that little bit of hesitation before he broke properly into his route, and it was a lovely, lovely play. Second one, his second touchdown was till I find it in my notes. Got it. Sorry. Obviously, it wasn't sorry. It was the Cooper Cup's first touchdown, but there was a play to Odell on that, which was just cracking design. Because if you watch it back, there's 3 Bengals defenders for 2 LA receivers. Cup takes the right hand crossing route, and OBJ takes the left, with somebody just running a go route on the inside as well. 2, I think I'm going to say linebackers, but don't quote me on who they are, moved down to cover them both with a safe safety in the middle, and 2 of them fall into each other, and the other one takes Cup, which is a blown coverage by that defender, leaving OBJ just completely on his own. And you'll see a couple of these plays throughout any game. That's just, it's Edelman's route. Goes up, maybe 8 yards down the field, cuts right, and he's just out on the open by himself, and he'll get maybe 8 to 10 yards after the catch. It was just great concept by McVay. It was beautiful execution by Stafford, not leading with his eyes because he knew who he was going to, but he was looking at Cup the entire time, and the Bengals defense just bit. Very, very nice play. That obviously led to a couple of plays later, the first touchdown for Cooper Cup of the day. He obviously got these 2. But I just thought those 2 plays said to me, LA are going to not run away with it, but they are going to look very, very tough to beat down the stretch. Now, obviously, that was after the Mixon touchdown, which you kind of touched on a little bit. But it felt like a bit of a turning point for that. 2 drives later, Odell Beckham Jr. goes down, nobody around him. And I've watched that play 4 or 5 times. He just plants his foot on a straight leg. Yeah. And I don't like all the antics that he's had, whether it be in New York or in Cleveland, or I didn't like his dad getting involved. I don't necessarily like him as a person. As a football player, my God, that boy is good. And I hate to see people with that much talent be stricken with injuries, especially reoccurring injuries. That could be him gone. You never know. I haven't seen an injury report that could have been his last play ever, depending on the severity of it.
Yeah, he's going to have a long road to recovery. In some respects, it could lead to him taking. I mean, they've talked about where he'd be a good fit. The Chiefs have come up, and I don't want to go too far down the beaten track of who's going to be the who's going to go where. That's a more off-season podcast that we can do.
Yeah.
Actually, just looking just now, I think I might have worked out how we can set this up as a podcast. I'm just out the corner of my eye here.
Hurrah!
We'll see. Anyway, no, he'll be cheap, I think, next season for whoever wants him. Which
I think he has to be, because he is an injury risk.
It could favour him staying with the Rams, because the Rams obviously are going to have Bobby Trees back, and I would think that they would be quite happy to have Beckham, him, and Cup in one team.
If they can afford him, then why the hell not? I mean, like you say, he's probably going to be cheap next year, and he wouldn't have the pull power of that star contract. The fact that everything that Cooper Cup won this year, he is, if there's any sort of money going about, it's going to go to Coop. It's going to go to Coop. Yeah.
So yeah, I think, I mean, there was a few good plays. I think one of the most ballsy calls I thought by McVay, and he's not known for this. He normally kind of shrinks into himself, I think, in the big moments. But It was ballsy of him in a big play to go hand the ball off.
Fourth and 1.
4th and 1. I mean, Cup hadn't ran a little. I mean, he does run end arounds and stuff. He's done it before, but he hadn't really done it a lot this season. And then he hands it off to him. Nice little play design, and Cup gets that conversion. If he doesn't get that conversion, then Bengals are in great position to win the game. And he obviously sensed at that time that this was the time he had to strike. So I think, we're talking about that. There were some phenomenal plays by Hendrickson on defense for the Bengals, wrapping up Stafford. Both quarterbacks in this game took some punishment. Obviously, Burrow a lot more than Stafford, and both of them got banged up. And Burrow, I think his mobility was perhaps affected slightly by one of them.
I agree with that. I thought that after that. Well, I was around that time. I thought the Bengals play went really flat.
Yeah, I kind of winced as well because he's obviously come off that knee surgery, and as a Rams fan and stuff, you want to win the game no matter what. But as a football fan and someone who enjoys watching whatever game is on, you want Joe Burrow in the league fit and healthy because he's exciting and he's a great player to watch. He's one of the new breed. Him and Herbert and the like are the ones that we're going to be watching hopefully for years. And yeah, I did wince, but I was glad he got back up and was able to finish the game as well. So that was good. You mentioned, I think we talked about it a bit. We mentioned MVPs of this game. Now, for me, I love Cooper Kupp. I think every Rams fan does, and I think a lot of football fans think he's fantastic. And I think he was MVP of the Super Bowl.
I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 names written down. Sorry, 6 names written down. 5 of them are Rams, I have to say, obviously, because it's exceptionally difficult to not give the MVP to a winning player. I had Hendrickson for the Bengals because I thought he was probably their best player.
He was really good.
Just ever so quickly going back to plays of the game, I didn't quite touch on. Jamar Chase had 2 one-handed catches in this game. Both of them were cracking.
Yeah,
absolutely cracking. That should have been a touchdown. If he hadn't lost his foot in, all he needed to do was jump cut inside, and it was a touchdown.
Yeah.
I thought it was an absolutely cracking play. I just wanted to kind of make sure we touched on that because he burned. It wasn't even that he faked Ramsey out. He just burned him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
There was nothing else on it. He takes a stutter step at the beginning of the run and just goes.
Yeah.
There's nothing else to that. Ramsey, I don't know whether he tried to jump down a bit too much and then got caught. He just went. It was. I thought it was an absolute cracking play.
I think the thing is that no matter how good Ramsey is at reading plays, and he's one of the best open field tackling cornerbacks in the league, you still just can't coach that pace that Chase that Jamar Chase.
No, you absolutely can't.
So yeah, so you had Hendrickson. Who were the Rams you had?
I did have Kupp because of the kind of. It was literally because of the last drive, and I want to go into the last drive slightly later on, because it was an absolute farce. But so yeah, I thought he was brilliant on the last drive, but very quiet throughout the rest of the game. Donald, obviously, I think you want to touch a little bit on him, but I thought he was very disruptive, close. He did only have 2 sacks and 2 tackles for loss in the game, though. So I think if he had won it, there might have been similar to the Kupp vote. I think it was just a little bit of recency bias within the game itself.
Yeah.
I had OBJ written down. If he hadn't got injured, I think he was a shoo-in for it with the game plan that McVay had, because he was using Kupp as a distraction.
Yeah.
And then he was going to OBJ, he was going to Higgins. Is it Higgins? No, Higgins was a Bengals player. There was the other Rams receiver.
he had Higby was injured. And then
Higby.
Higby
No,
wasn't
no,
playing.
Higby's a tight end, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a tight end. He wasn't playing, and then they brought in. It was like by the time their second string tight end got injured, and he stopped playing. And then it was their third string tight end, who I forget the name of, and then the receivers, the next best receiver after Cup at one point, well, there was Van Jefferson, and then there was Skoranek. And
What is he not? I was going to say, is Skoranek
of,
not the extra tight end?
no, Skoranek's a wide receiver, but he
okay.
was responsible for putting the Bengals almost in a position to ice the game at one point because he couldn't handle a pass and it banged off him and was intercepted. And luckily the defense...
that's it. That makes it an even worse play because I was thinking of him as a tight end because he's a big lad. That should have been a two-handed catch.
Yeah.
We discussed at length the Scotland game with the one-handed catch attempt, and I still think that's a one-handed catch attempt as a non-rugby player, fan. Yeah. You know, that's me looking at it probably from an American football point of view, but that's for another day. If he is meant to be a wide receiver, you don't put your one arm out and try and catch it one-handed when you know there's pressure. You dive and get two hands on the ball.
Yeah, he completely watched that for that.
Oh, it was not a good play, and it gave Stafford a second interception on the day, which kind of marred his chances. I think I did have Stafford written down. He was 26 out of 40, 283 yards, 3 touchdowns, but he did have those 2 interceptions.
Yeah, I mean, I would say on his interceptions though, and this was touched on around the NFL podcast by Dan Hansis. The first one was kind of an arm punt where there wasn't much of him. And it was late in the quarter, late in the half, and I think he just threw it, and it thought, well, if it gets intercepted, it gets intercepted because
he just wanted to make a play on that. He could have. He was. I think I counted. He had 7 seconds of non-pressure before doing anything.
Yeah,
which is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Then the pressure of the line started to get to him, and he rolls out, and he signals to.
He actually just points and then just throws it. I don't know who he's. I can't remember who was in that corner. I think it was Van Jefferson again.
I think it might have been Jefferson. And then who was with him? Give us a sec. So right at the end of the second injury. Stafford interception. There we go. It was signalled to Jefferson, but it was Bates. Bates had him all day long. As soon as Stafford pointed, Bates was on him like a hawk, and then Stafford underthrew the pass.
Yeah.
So I had Stafford as a potential MVP candidate. I thought he played as well as he needed to. There was a few mistakes. There was a few times he held onto the ball too much, and I would have liked to see him use his legs a little bit more. I know he's not that type of quarterback, but even just stepping up and getting the 4 or 5 yards, he doesn't need to be the Patrick Mahomes getting the 20 or 12 or 18 yard runs. And I kind of felt that with Burrow in the game as well. The last one I had was Von Miller. I know he's already had one, but from a non-highlight point of view, he allowed Donald and
Floyd.
It begins. No, it's the other one. It begins with G.
Gaines and
Gaines. He allowed Donald and Gaines to get the pressures that they did because he was on. They were almost a triple threat on one side, leaving Donald on the other. Because Von Miller's so active with his hands, he makes that side of the ball horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So he was. I felt he was setting up other people's plays a lot. Now that wouldn't get any votes, but just from a personal point of view, I think it was noteworthy. If I had to put another one in there, and I know he's getting a load of love at the moment, I don't. On my rerun through the game today, I didn't see Andrew Whitworth get beaten once. A left tackle is never, ever going to get MVP of the Super Bowl. It's just not going to happen.
Once when I think it was Akers ran into the back of him, and that was the only time we really got beat. For a 40-year-old man, it's pretty impressive.
I think it's absolutely cracking. Like I remember him when he signed for the Rams. It was a headline signing.
Yeah.
And
and
for a left tackle to be a headline signing, I think it's just I just got a lot of time for the man. I think.
Yeah, he was signed from the Bengals.
Bengals, yeah.
So he said, I think he's done though. I think he's not announced it yet, but I think essentially
from what he's been saying, like he was on Ellen yesterday, interviews before and after. It's just a matter of time before he puts pen to paper and says, "I'm done."
Yeah. And we can get more into some of the players that might walk away as things progress.
Aaron Donald,
yeah, and Von Miller arguably might not be. Well, I doubt he'll be a Ram next year because I'm not sure they're going to be able to afford him again.
back to the Broncos.
Yeah. The only other person I'd mention is an outside MVP who had a very important role in this game, but probably not done enough to be the MVP, was Ernest Jones, the Rams rookie linebacker who came in for Troy Reader because he's much more reliable and much more explosive, and hadn't played. He'd been injured and came in and started ahead of him and was responsible for breaking up that 4th and 1 pass right at the start of the game. Was responsible for numerous tackles in the open field. So that I guess it has to be one of the ones you've talked about. I would have edged it to Donald because I think that Kupp done really well in that one drive, and he was important at clearing out for OBJ when OBJ was in the game. But I really think that Donald's defense and his pressures, because whilst he only had 2 sacks, he also had 3 QB hits, several hurries, and he had quite a few run stuffs as well. He had that really amazing run stuff where the guy was almost past him and he basically grabbed him with his bicep and pulled him back from making the first down. So for me, it was Donald. But I think it was a difficult game to say that there was somebody who stood out the whole game. Like over 60 minutes.
Totally agree with you. Agree with you that. And Donald
at any point could have
played
been
down the sideline as well.
Sorry?
But Donald also had that play down the sideline, putting Burrow out of play. Now, again, if you watch that back, he's putting pressure on his left side at that point. So he comes completely across the line. It's not like he's playing towards Burrow's left. He's playing towards Burrow's right, sees him roll out, and he just goes.
Yeah.
So he's covering more distance than Burrow is. Now, fair enough, he's got the angle on him because Burrow's coming round. But still, he's a big lad.
Mm-hmm.
To cover that amount of distance in that time, deliver a completely clean hit, because Burrow was still 1.5 yards inbound. Completely clean hit. And then pretty much decide, no, I'm not getting involved with this. I'm going to walk away. Burrow walked away. He couldn't give a shit what went on. And I'll claim the first swear of the podcast. Obviously, the Bengals players want to protect their quarterback. Donald didn't want any part of it. It's like, I've made my point.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're not getting past me. I am going to assert myself on you. And let's get back to the next play. I thought that was a very classy, it didn't, excuse me, he didn't get dirty in any way there.
Yeah. Although I think that brings us to the next point on your list, the refs, because whilst Donald didn't get involved, several players did come in and join a melee. He pushed Burrow out legitimately. Burrow got up and went to jog back onto the field. Bengals, I think it was an O-lineman, I don't know what player it was, came over and gets in Donald's face, starts the shoving match, and then there's a bit of a kind of scrum. Nobody throwing punches or doing anything stupid, but folk are pushing about, causes a bit of a melee. The refs have to sort out. No flags were thrown. And
I think we're going to disagree on this bit, because at the time, I really liked that they didn't throw a flag. It was an emotional game at that point.
Yeah.
And it was like, you know what, let the boys play.
Oh, I agree with you. I didn't think they should have thrown a flag there. I thought you were saying that
there should have been one.
Yeah, where there should have been where there should have been flags, they didn't seem to get them, and then the Rams benefited from a couple of ticky-tack calls at the end of the game. Now, I think by the letter of the law, I think the first penalty on Cup that basically gave them first and goal again and the chance to start again was a hold under the rules, but they'd let a lot go to that point and then seemed to...
I disagree with you on that. Oh, well, letter of the law, yeah, okay, but the refs weren't playing the letter of the law.
But that's what
they
I mean.
Were playing a physical game. So for me, it was an exceptionally... So I mean, I've got very soft call. I've got, like, it's in capitals and double underlined. It was a very soft call. So I just going through that, because this is kind of where I was going with the whole refs topic. So on that drive, you've got first and goal, incomplete. Second and goal, incomplete.
Mm-hmm.
Third and goal, sorry. It was
that was a penalty.
Batted down. It was batted down and a holding call. First, automatic first down.
Yeah.
Okay, and for me, it was a dubious call. Again, letter of the law, yeah, okay, it was. You could probably argue it was a penalty, but there were so many other instances throughout the game that there were little ticky-tack things like that. I wouldn't have expected it to be called. So again, first and goal, touchdown, negated by a holding on the offense, and then unnecessary roughness, which again, you replay the down. Now, I get by the letter of the law, it was unnecessary roughness.
Yeah.
It was a hit to try and dislodge the ball.
Yeah, I know why they call that hit though. That Vontaze Perfect play doesn't happen on AJ Brown, and that isn't called. But it wasn't the same degree of, it wasn't malice in it, but it was the same kind of angle of head coming towards face. It didn't hit him in the face, or Cooper Kupp wouldn't have got up again. So I can see why people thought it was soft, but I do think if that Vontaze Perfect play doesn't happen years ago, that basically, I think what led to a lot of problems AJ Brown has. I don't think that gets called.
I can't really argue with that. I just thought, again, with the flow of the play, that yes, it was an aggressive play, but it wasn't a malicious play. I thought the offensive holding call was a bit ticky-tacky. I didn't think it was a massive hold.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, then if you're going to call the Cup for a hold on Cup, then yeah, okay, it's a hold. Goes to first and down. Defensive pass interference was 100%. It was. Leads to another first and goal. Quarterback sneak. I didn't like that play call. If I'm honest, it was a big yard. It was about a yard and a quarter for Stafford to try and get. Yes, okay, they've got a decent offensive line, but the run game, and again, we can get to the run game in a wee bit if you want to, but the Rams' run game was terrible. The run protection was terrible. So why call that play?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Leads to second and goal, back shoulder touchdown to Cup. Good play call. Good play call. And Eli Apple has got a lot of grief, especially on Twitter. I thought he made a blooming good play on that, because there was twice he gets his hands in between the receiver's hands, which makes it exceptionally difficult for the receiver to actually control the ground in.
Yeah.
And credit to Apple on that, but also credit to Cup, because he secured that ball and it was going nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, what folk have got to remember about that as well is he's playing against the best receiver. I know that he's maybe not always been, but he's playing against the best receiver in the league.
Yeah.
You know, whether people want to admit it or not now, I mean, even other sort of more famous wide receivers have come out and said that Cooper Kupp is the guy. And, you know, Apple had an okay game apart from that. And it was one play.
I don't get why he's getting so much grief at the moment. I don't.
Yeah. I think it's just people like to pick a target. It was, you know, when
I mean, it would have been Ramsey getting the same grief if the Bengals had won.
Yeah, if it's very much as you talk about recency bias. If Ramsey, if the Rams lose, then Ramsey's getting the same.
He's getting thrown out of town.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm being honest with you, Ramsey, for the contract he's got and everything, was absolutely terrible in that game for most of it.
Yeah,
it was the complete opposite of a Ramsey classic, because Ramsey has had some good games. We all know that.
Absolutely.
You maybe don't appreciate his behaviour, his attitude, and that's fair enough. But he's been pretty good for the Rams. So yeah, I thought the refs were just inconsistent. If they were going to call that stuff, they should have called it the whole game, and they called it when it really mattered. That said, and I know that these things have a way of balancing now. That T. Higgins touchdown to start the second half should never have been a touchdown.
Absolutely not.
They should have been.
That should have been called back for offensive pass interference. Pick it what, but it should have been a face mask
or a face mask, whatever you preferred. Yeah. And it should. I mean, they would have been back on their own 12, and that was literally the Cincinnati touchdowns. The Rams had 3 of them, obviously. The Cincinnati had 2 touchdowns, and one of them came on that play, and then the other one came on a trick play. Without any disrespect to the Cincinnati, they did not look like they were going to score touchdowns without a trick play or a call going right for them. And it went right for them because they were aggressive. And as somebody said, Joe Burrow's going to throw that pass every time and hope his receiver wins it. But, you know, it was a big missed call as well. That turned the game over.
But the fact that they've got the option of replay on a scoring drive, it was a scoring drive. I don't get why New York didn't say it.
Yeah, me neither. I think it's one of these things where, you know, we've got replay. I'm not suggesting the coaches should be able to challenge. I've never agreed with that. This idea that coaches can challenge and ask for penalties. They tried it in rugby once as well. Terrible idea. You could make a challenge, get somebody red carded. Stupid. But I do think that they've got the technology to go, wait a minute here, that's a touchdown, but watch this. He just pulls his face mask.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's trying to. I get and I like the fact that there is a human element to refereeing on any sporting event. Totally get it. I really like it. But if that's the point of having scoring drives, A, reviewed, and B, having somebody in a booth sat on a computer looking at these things.
Yeah.
To say, guys, have a look at it. You might have missed it because of the angle. Somebody it could have been Whitworth, or it wouldn't have been on that one. It could have been Donald. It could have been Miller. It could have been any of these big lads screening the referee. There's also, I believe, 8 referees on the field, 8 people that can throw a flag.
Yeah.
You're not going to tell me everybody missed it.
Yeah, I really didn't understand that missed call either. And as I say, I think they have the way of balancing themselves out. And you know, that's fine. I'm trying to do this image here for our new podcast, but I've just made a right mess of it, so I'm just going to stop just now. I thought it was doing the right thing. So that, I mean, those plays balance themselves out. I think, you know, I don't think the refs were as disgraceful as they've been in some games. Put it that way. the last time the Rams were at the Super Bowl, for example, the championship game missed PI was worse than anything in this game. So no one can really.
Was that the Saints?
The Saints
game.
one, yeah. So the next thing you've asked about the running game, the Rams running game was awful.
It was so bad.
And I didn't understand why he kept going with Akers, who clearly wasn't back to being 100% after a lengthy injury layoff, and was just not having a good day. And then decided, oh, wait a minute, we'll go with that. We'll go with Akers and continue with Akers. Sonny Michel had 2 carries, who's been more reliable since Akers and Henderson been injured. And then Henderson, he was pretty good in the wheel routes and stuff and seemed to make things happen, at least when he was getting the ball. So I didn't quite follow why Sean McVay decided he was just going to just persevere with what was going on.
I don't know. I mean, I think they said it on the telecast. Wow, how American am I? That the run sets up a lot of Stafford's like bootlegs, a lot of his play action as well, and to just continue to plow into that Rams pass. The Bengals run defense. I just didn't see the point in it, because then it was putting pressure on the receivers when you've got a receiver that's having to take up a higher workload and not playing well. The fact that Beckham was out, like Skoranek, just I don't think he'll ever play again, if I'm honest. Definitely not for the Rams.
I think Skoranek's going to end up in the, if at best he can hope for with the Rams, is to end up in the practice squad. As can probably some of the tight end that was actually making the passes, the best he can probably hope for is to end up in the practice squad as well. But the Rams running game was awful. Bengals was okay, but having Ashawn Robinson back really helped the Rams nullify that as best they could.
Totally agree with that. I mean, you know the team better than I do from the Rams' point of view, but I thought I actually thought the Bengals running game was all right. It was setting up plays. It was allowing them to try and use that a little bit of continuity in their play to set up the passing plays.
Yeah. So, where have you gone? I've now lost you. Are you still there?
I'm still here. Yeah, I'm still here. Don't worry.
You still see me?
Oh, aye.
I don't know where.
I mean, I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but I can still see you.
Yeah, hold on. How did I get you back?
Next topic was, where was Chase?
Yeah. Well, I thought Chase was all right. I thought, he had 2. I mean, we know Chase Young wasn't there, so before I make that mistake again, but Jamar Chase, he had that big play against Ramsey, and then he was pretty quiet. But I think part of that is that whilst the Bengals made a gutsy call in the draft to draft Jamar Chase, they could have done with Penny Sewell as well. And that's the issue, because they went up against a Rams defensive line that on paper is the best defensive line that's been assembled in a very long time.
I mean, it's unreal.
Yeah.
And I think that is kind of where I was going with that, because Ramsey was matched up on, they were kind of bouncing between Chase and Higgins. Yeah. And just on whichever they thought was the primary target.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I saw that.
Which on a lot of the time was Chase. So to be able to nullify, I think Chase had 2 decent catch and runs in the game. And to take somebody that's been the bread and butter for the Bengals out of the game like that. I think it's a credit to the defensive play calling, to not allow, like Chase is a guy that'll stick to his route. You know, he will run his route very well, but he's not somebody that can break off an ad lib yet. I'm not saying that he's not going to develop that into his game, but he's not got it at that level yet that he can, you know, they can just draw up a play and he's got a choice. Like, he will run his route and he'll run it very well, and a lot of the times he will beat that you know, the corner or the safety or whoever through the middle. He's not got that hang about, this isn't on, so I'm gonna choose to break my route and go somewhere else, like a Jones would have, or who's the other guy in Green Bay?
Devontae Adams.
Adams, yeah. Adams can do that exceptionally well because he's got that chemistry with Rodgers at this level. Now, we obviously know that Burrows and Chase have got great chemistry. They've played together for years and they're very good friends. But at this level, playing against that defensive line, Burrows doesn't have the time to ad lib. So it needs to be the receiver that's giving him an option. Yeah. That might be a completely backward way of thinking about it. But I would say, I am a casual fan, but I'm a casual fan that takes myself a little bit seriously when it comes to watching and wanting to learn the ins and outs of the game. So you're mentioning the Rams defensive line. When you've got those 4 or 5 bodies constantly putting Burrows under duress, making him run around, you need to have receivers that can get themselves open.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, and I think the thing is about that is you see it with, as you say, with Adams and stuff. They come back. Chase, I think, is young and he'll learn that, but Adams and Jones and Cup and all these receivers that do that, Edelman, for example, who've done it for Brady for years, so he could dump things off.
It's a completely off topic, but I do not think Edelman gets nearly the credit that he deserves.
No, I think he doesn't, and he was my favourite Patriot.
100% mine as well.
100% mine. That's not difficult because I don't like any of the other ones. So, I think Chase Young. God, I'm saying that again. Jamar Chase kind of went a little bit absent there for a bit, but he's young. I think the Bengals will get back to Super Bowl. I don't think it's necessarily going to be as easy as next year, because we all thought that about Patrick Mahomes, as everyone says. But yeah, I think we've got the makings of an exciting team at least, and people that can.
Oh, definitely, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, and the hopefully they can. The more teams that are exciting, the more fun the product is for us to watch and discuss.
No, 100%.
Chasing the trophy, you've got trading the team for a Super Bowl team. Super team. I guess I'm trying to think who this is akin to in a sport that maybe is more familiar to us. I'm not sure that it's ever really been done in ice hockey. Potentially, I mean, you could argue that there's always
the only teams that I could think about that could be akin to that would be like your late 90s Red Wings.
Yeah. I suppose you get rental player. The idea of a rental player, kind of like what Von Miller was to the Rams this year, because he was essentially a rental player, whether he goes back to the Broncos or he retires now, or he stays with the Rams or whatever, or when he decides to go wherever, right? The idea and the concept of a rental player like the Rams trading 2 picks to pick up Von Miller just so they can try and win a Super Bowl has blown the minds of so many people in the
and it's been done in basketball for years, though. It's been done in the NBA for donkeys.
Yeah, and it gets done. It's been done in ice hockey for donkeys. I mean, look at Matt Sundin, for example, and Ray Bork. Was it Ray Bork? Yeah, Ray Bork went to the Avalanche.
The Avalanche, yeah.
It's not. unheard of for it to be done, but it is more unheard of in the NFL, and I think it's because draft picks are so much more important in the NFL than.
Well, you say that, but how many times did Belichick just completely disregard the draft through the Patriots run?
I guess so, but
especially early draft picks, like your early draft picks, people want them to be playing straight away.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the thing. There's no farm system in the NFL. Like, in hockey, if you pick someone up in the second round and they don't hit, then they're not ready. They go to junior,
they can go to the A,
or they end up in the AHL for a bit, and then maybe they build their career. And by the time they're 22, they end up in the NHL, and they're a serviceable team player. But in the NFL, is if you don't sign that player either to your team or your practice squad, that player either becomes somebody else's player, or they end up working in a car as a car salesman or something. And that's no disrespect to car salesmen, but it does beg the question whether the NFL has it entirely right for the model as a model. But it's a strange sport and it's very unique. So I guess that's the thing. But the Rams, I think I can't ever remember, and I've not watched it. I've watched the NFL, 10, 15 years. I can't remember a team doing this, where they've just bought. Maybe Tampa.
I was thinking Tampa last year, because obviously you've got Brady there. Now he obviously signed a contract, but he was signing to potentially get away from the Patriots, but also to go on another run. He saw that the Patriots were going into a bit of a rebuilding phase, and said, "Okay, I need to go to a team that's going to be fighting." You've then got Gronk coming out of retirement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Those kind of storylines was where I was going with it. Obviously, you've got Stafford being traded. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about the players, but I am. It's good team building by McVay and the front office from the Rams to go, well, you know what? We are going to go all in this year, but it's not going to be like a Seahawks all in from 2 years ago, which they were terrible.
No,
terrible's a bit strong, but they're not going to actually go unless everything goes in. Their stars align and they're just going to go on a massive run. It's putting all of our. I don't want to say putting all of our eggs in the one basket, but it's essentially that is what I'm saying. It's it is going on an all or nothing run. Because I think the words all or nothing is great for a TV series or whatever, but not a lot of players, not a lot of franchises actually do it, because they're like, well, if we don't, we still need to protect our assets. The Rams didn't do that this year. They went, sod it, we are going all in. We're going to get Stafford. We're going to go and get OBJ. We're going to go and get Von Miller. We're going to make sure that we're protecting this player and that player. Give them enough, but a little money, and make sure that salary cap spread around with the players that we want them to be on our team, but still have the depth. So, you've got, they had to do a bit of jiggery pokery for the whole Cam Akers situation because he blew his ACL.
Yeah.
I don't think there's been a team that has gone completely all or nothing.
Yeah. The Rams they've got players under contract, and they've got players they'll need to re-sign. But the likes of, Donald, the talk about whether Donald will retire or not after the Super Bowl win, because essentially it's the only thing that was missing from his resume. Whether or not he wants to go and try and break the sack record or not, I don't know. But you've got him. You've got so you got him if he comes back. You've still got Ramsey, as far as I understand. Cooper Kupp's still there. Robert Woods should be back, and you've got Stafford, and then most of your offensive line is going to be back. Obviously, Whitworth's going to retire, and deservedly so. And you've got pieces in defense that you maybe that's where they'll try and bolster. But I don't think they're a horrendous situation for next year, whether it's like, well, we're going to go from first to worst.
No, I don't. I wouldn't expect them to do that. I would expect them to go, say, Super Bowl champions to conference round exit or divisional round exit. I wouldn't expect them to completely fall off the table, but unless they make some good acquisitions with the people that are expected to retire, or maybe take a bit of a sideward step, I wouldn't have any sort of confidence in them going, well, we are contending again this year.
Yeah, no, I can't see. I mean, if they do it, brilliant. But if I can't see it. I can't see the Rams making the Super Bowl next year. I'd love it if they did. I think it would be really cool if they managed to somehow swing it so they got back to the Super Bowl. But I can't see it. And I don't want to start predicting who might win things next year, but
I hate when people do that. It really irritates me. It's way too early. You've got free agency, you've got the draft, you've got retirements, you've got injuries, you've got coaching carousels to go through. Now, obviously, all the head coaching stuff's done, but I mean, there's still going to be coordinators for the Rams and the Bengals that haven't been able to talk about, go into any sort of contract talks with other teams yet. So it is way too early.
Yeah, the Rams offensive coordinator is off to, it's not Denver. Is it Denver? No, maybe it's not Denver. He's off somewhere, essentially. So, I mean, I wonder how, I just wonder how next season is going to pan out with some of these things for the Rams and for the Bengals. I think they're in the opposite end of the scale. They've overachieved this year. The Rams not winning the Super Bowl was a failure this year based on how they built their squad. To the Bengals, they were wanting a marked improvement. Well, they got the ultimate marked improvement from them. They got to the Super Bowl from not being in the playoffs last year. And
I think they only won 4 games last year.
Yeah. And the only thing I would say, the only downside to this season for the Bengals is their draft picks would be low now. Which means that they're going to be stuck with whatever's left potentially for the O-line to fix their O-line, or whatever's left to maybe plug a hole in defense. So that's the only downside to the Bengals fans. But blimey, if you're a Bengals fan, what a run, you know. And I think that's the thing. You know, we both follow different sports. For example, if the Pars were to make it to the Scottish Cup final and then get beat by Celtic, you'd be
has happened on 2 occasions.
You'd be chuffed that they got there, though. At this stage,
absolutely.
Given that would be a massive overachievement for them. I guess I'm just talking around in circles here, but I do think we've talked too much about this. But so your last topic, I think you said, is reward then retire. Now, obviously, Andrew Whitworth, I think Andrew Whitworth was retiring probably this season anyway. I think when there've been discussions with him about coming back for the way they were building the squad. And I think from the Rams' perspective, Noteboom in the one game that he came in when Whitworth was injured actually played really, really well against Tampa Bay. So there's probably a feeling that they don't necessarily need to force the issue with Whitworth to stay on or anything. Donald would be an absolute massive loss. Now, I don't know, I've not looked up how old Donald is, but I don't think he's particularly old. I think he's been in the league, 10 years now, maybe?
So who are we talking about?
Aaron Donald. Now, he's the next one that might be out the door and retiring from the Rams, particularly. Aaron Donald, 30 years of age. I mean, that's still pretty young in sporting terms. He'd been drafted in 2014. So, I don't know. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, no matter what he decides to do. But I wonder if he plans to stay. There's a thing just come up from NBC Sports actually when I googled him. They're saying that Donald wants to run it back, and then Donald wants contract as top paid defender. So maybe he will be back, provided he gets paid.
Money makes the world go round.
Yeah, I don't see anyone else that jumps out at me from that game potentially retiring. I mean, there was talk at one point that Sean McVay might retire, but and to concentrate on his family, but I don't see him doing that for another wee while. I don't think he'll ever coach away from the Rams though now. I get the impression that once Sean McVay finishes with the Rams, that will be Sean McVay will become the broadcaster.
Aye, maybe.
Do you know why I think he'll become a broadcaster? 2 reasons. One, he is very enthusiastic, and 2, he's a bit of a dish. So, I think he'll become the broadcaster. I mean, you don't weak your shirt off in Hard Knocks for no apparent reason unless you're pretty well ripped and confident in your body. I would not be weaking my top off in Hard Knocks unless that would actually
Rambo. I've seen what's under that. Nobody wants to see it, quite frankly.
Yeah, it's like basically if you just imagine that giant marshmallow thing in Ghostbusters. It's a bit like that, but slightly pinker. Anyway, I think that is there anyone you see retiring from either team we've not talked about?
I think we've covered them, to be honest. It was just obviously there's the potential for Von Miller to step away, but I think from the conversations on whether it be Twitter or Instagram or whatever, there's potential for him to go back to the Broncos. He said that he is still a Bronco. He's just been working in LA for the past year, so we'll see what happens there. If he goes into any contract talks at all, we'll see. But no, I think it was just the potential of Donald, and then obviously Whitworth looking at the fact that he kind of not opposite ends of the scale, because obviously Donald's not completely a spring chicken, but it was the last thing he needed really to on his CV to say, well, look at I've had a successful NFL career. I want to focus on my family.
Yeah, there is one thing that Aaron Donald doesn't have, which shocks me.
He's not got
a defensive touchdown.
Oh.
So I know that that's not a reason to come back for a defensive player, but it does kind of shock me because, Von Miller's got 2, JJ Watt's got several. These guys tend to get them because they force the fumble and then run it home. But Donald, it's all creates disruption, but he just doesn't seem to ever end up scoring touchdowns, which is quite interesting to me. I think I think to put a pin in it all, one of the things about this Super Bowl, which was magnificent, I'm not going to say the best ever, because I still have one that I think was as good, if not slightly better. But the halftime show, I don't know if you watched it all, Kenny. I'm not sure if hip hop.
I watched most of it. I did miss the start of it because I was taking my pizza out of the oven.
Well, the halftime show for me was awesome, and it was so LA. It was like the perfect LA halftime show, because obviously it's everyone from it was the Dre tree, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, 50 Cent, Eminem, obviously not from LA, but from that family, Kendrick Lamar, who's like got the key to the city of Compton, and Mary J. Blige, and it was just awesome. They started off with Next Episode, went into some Mary J. Blige, Forget About Dre, some Kendrick Lamar in the club. Just class. I just loved it, and it was just. I think it was because it was perfect, absolutely perfect for the place that the Super Bowl took place in, because that is something.
No, you're not going to get an argument out of me. It took me back to walks to school when I was like 15, 16.
Yeah. I mean, I literally was in the agents room today talking about hitting the corners in those Lobos, girl, as I was walking about, because I still have this halftime show in my head. And I think we might do a watch along one time on the podcast, and then we can have a fan vote. I don't know how you do that, so that'll be way off in the distance. But between that and Lady Gaga are my two favourite halftime shows. I thought Gaga was amazing. I thought Katy Perry was pretty good too, actually, but they were sort of back-to-back ones. But yeah, that was cracking. It was just so good. And it made up for whatever the weekend was supposed to be doing.
That was but last year's was so bad.
The weekend, and then I think the year before it was Maroon 5, who were absolutely no, it wasn't Maroon 5. It was Shakira and Jennifer Lopez. Sorry. I
mean, that was easy on the eye, but
well, I quite enjoyed that one. I quite enjoyed the rants that all the mad people were having about it being pornography and stuff. I thought that was actually more entertaining than the show. But I do think that the halftime show this year was incredible. I thought Eminem, like when it was symbolic, it was punchy, and the fact that Snoop Dogg is apparently being caught having a talk of his
I've seen that photograph.
and there, I don't know if you've listened to Around the NFL podcast Super Bowl recap, but Greg Rosenthal.
I've got about halfway through it.
Stench of weed when the halftime show started.
That doesn't surprise me either.
But the best of it was there was a guy on Twitter who seemed genuinely shocked that Snoop Dogg would be caught doing that. It was like, of all the people, I would not have expected it to be Snoop Dogg.
Of all the people, I would have expected it to be Snoop Dogg.
Out of all the people there, it was definitely going to be Snoop Dogg. It's not going to be Eminem because he's been to rehab. So like it's going to be 100%.
Disgraceful.
And it's legal in California, so he didn't do anything wrong particularly, and he didn't do it that openly. I think it was someone on a camera that caught him rather than
no, it was literally just before they went on. He was having a quick quiet talk.
Yeah. So that was that bit. Season in the books, Kenny. Pretty good season.
It was all right, actually. Yeah. There was a lot of highs, a lot of lows. More lows for me than you, but I think this year really kind of cemented what a good product the NFL has. There was a lot of stuff going into the season. Obviously, you've got the extra playoff team, you've got the extra week, you've got still working with COVID protocols. There was a lot of injuries at the outset of the year. Cracking hard knocks with the Cowboys, and I think the only kind of bad thing that we've got is there's now 7 months with no football.
Yeah, I think I would have normally after the 5th of February and what happened on that fateful day at Murrayfield, I would have been forgiven for thinking that this was going to be a fun, exciting period for me after post Super Bowl. But unfortunately, what happened was that we went to Wales and played absolutely terrible, to the point
it wasn't great.
Yeah, and it quite upset me. So I'm not looking forward to the. Hopefully, we can turn over France as we always do, beat Italy, and then finally surprise me by beating Ireland. But stranger things will remain to be seen. But yeah, you're right. It's sad the NFL's gone, but it makes room for other stuff. Rugby, normal football, ice hockey. We're going to have the ice hockey playoffs coming up. The Olympics are heating up, although I've managed to watch precisely none of it because it's in China and the time difference is so
likewise.
And we've got all those sorts of things to look forward to. All the craziness with the draft and everything that we'll pretend we understand, and we'll stay up and watch the first round. None of us will have a clue who's actually good and who's actually not.
Yep.
But it's the NFL as a product and I use this as a product. I think it might be it is the best sporting product there is, in terms of fan access and intrigue off the pitch is much higher than any other sport, and no one will change.
The storylines that you get with regards to, you name a topic, and there's been one this year, whether it be stuff with cheerleaders, whether it be stuff with strippers, whether it be stuff with going 140 kilometers an hour in a 30, whether it be coaches fired. There's been everything, literally anything you could work. And not all of those are storylines that we want to have.
No.
But like you say, it's keeping intrigue with it being on the field, off the field. I think some of the broadcast teams really, really make the product. Even with, down to Troy Aikman's little dig at the fact that he didn't want the game that they got, and you've got Drew Brees now going into the box. You've got the Manning cast. You've still got Tony Romo doing his thing. It is just the best sporting product that I've come across. And I mean, I love hockey. I think the NHL's got a lot going for it at the moment, but obviously you've got no fans in Canada at the moment. There's the Coyotes can't put in, bloody 5,000 fans at all in their stadium. You've got, I can't say that I follow basketball or baseball in America. I used to kind of follow storylines, but I just don't have time for it at the moment. I just think nobody tunes into the World Series. Nobody tunes into the NBA playoffs. There's a few, because of the hockey following in the UK, that tune in for the NHL playoffs. But I mean, I know countless people that tune in for the Super Bowl every year because it is such an event. They've got no idea what's going on. They don't even like American football because it's so stop and start, or they've got their own preset opinions on it. But it's the spectacle of it. It is a viewer's show.
Yeah, I think
that's what makes it for me.
Yeah, the thing I think that makes the Super Bowl unique, especially in terms of American sports, and what makes it so special is it's one game. It's one game for all the marbles, and yeah, arguably, if you play a 7-game series, you're more likely to get the better team coming out at the end of that. But it loses its luster a little bit. Like that fourth game, and if your team's 3-0 up or your team's 3-0 down, that fourth game loses its luster because you know sometimes it's just putting off the inevitable. And yeah, don't get me wrong, I love hockey too, but I think the NFL is probably where it's at in terms of, if you want to bring a casual viewer in, you plunk them down in front of the Super Bowl and you say, just watch it. Like, don't worry about not knowing the rules and stuff. They get to the halftime show at the Super Bowl and the chances are they're going to go, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, they perk up again.
Yeah. And like Lindsay, we obviously watched it on Monday, and Lindsay went and said to me, like, I'm coming through for it. And she watched the halftime show and a bit of it with me. Has no interest in football, really. Even my dad, my dad's a funny one though, because when I used to watch football when I was like sort of living with him, he'd sit and have his eyes on the screen, and then he'd get up and go, I'm going to my bed, I'm not watching this pish anymore, and then he'd go away. So I think it's more he doesn't quite understand it, but if he did, he would quite like it. He doesn't want to learn now because he's dug himself into a corner where he can't now come out and say, I would quite like to understand this game.
No, I agree. There's definitely people like that out there.
Yeah, because incredible athleticism. It's a strange sport because obviously most of the sports we watch, the players are constantly involved. You don't have everyone plays offense and defense as well. It's a strange sort of sport, but it's a good one and it's a unique one, and it's very American. Let's be honest with you. So that's my next goal in the NFL. Is like to get a game over in the States, and get a game ticked off. But for now, I guess we're now are just in our usual spraffy bit of the show, but it's been a pleasure to do these with you, Kenny, and I'm hoping we can do one, if not next week, maybe the week after, kind of get a bit of a more retrospective of the season, and and maybe just shoot the shit a little bit and see what comes out. I couldn't let you get
Sounds good to me.
Swore on the podcast. And hopefully, I'm hoping that we'll be able to do this as an audio show as well as a YouTube thing, moving forward. But for now, I'll say goodbye. If you're needing any wellness or coaching advice, please check out Kenny Collins's Collins Wellness and Coaching.
Good plug, thank you.
And he can help you with all sorts of things. He's very bendy. And do give us a like, a follow, and or even if you think we were rubbish, just send me a message and say you were rubbish. It counts as a hit at the end of the day on our YouTube page. So thank you very much, everyone.